when the world was still filled with magic and wonder, there existed a mystical land in the high hills of Scotland where very few people ever roamed. This land was home to a pair of siblings named Highland and Hamilton. They were the best of friends, always laughing and playing happily together in the magical land they called Loch Cairdeas. The land was bonny beautiful, with towering stone mountains and shimmering waterfalls that cascaded down into the picturesque loch. The loch was surrounded by thick, lush pine trees and century-old oaks, among which Highland and Hamilton enjoyed roaming freely. Loch Cairdeas was so lovely, in fact, that it was coveted by many magical creatures who wished to live there. It was an enchanting land that Highland and Hamilton absolutely adored. At the edge of the grassy meadow was the small cottage they called home. It was tiny and meager, but permitted them the very comfort and contentment they needed to live in ease. The cottage was hidden safely in their tiny realm from the magical creatures that dwelt within the forest and lay deep within the mountain range. These two siblings were happy where they lived, and rarely wandered too far from their home. Highland felt so secure within her kingdom that she would often skip down to the meadow singing ever so softly in the loveliest of keys. Her voice, lilting sweet and pure, would carry across the meadow and down to the loch, where a mermaid-like creature called a keesk would hear her voice and answer her call by echoing her song. Hamilton was more adventurous and curious than his sister. After he completed his daily wizardry studies, he would often explore different parts of the forest, practicing his magic spells and wondering what existed past the edge of their land. His faithful little doggie and his calico cat would frequently follow him into the forest to watch him cast his spells on the frogs, flowers, and the forest fairies who also dwelt there. One of Hamilton's favorite spells was Colorimarchus, which would turn the tiny creatures bioluminescent. He would laugh wholeheartedly as they scampered back into the forest, glowing incandescent colors of the rainbow. One of Hamilton's favorite fairies to play tricks on was Ferguson. She was a wee mischievous tree sprite who delighted in hiding his magic wand each morning during breakfast. Often, Hamilton would have to search the forest for hours hoping to come across these secret hideaways, while Ferguson would flitter from tree to tree, giggling as she watched. It was especially amusing to Hamilton when he would, in turn, find Ferguson deeply absorbed in her daily task of planting acorns in various places beneath the ferns. Hamilton, sneaking up on her from behind, would quickly cast his spell, turning her luminous shades and colors. Rarely did Ferguson ever seem to notice his clever ambush. The enjoyment of watching her flitter away, babbling in her squeaky high-pitched voice about how it was inconsiderate and rude to turn forest fairies into glowing mutants, was the highlight of Hamilton's afternoons. This had become quite the daily ritual between the two. Being the brave, clever wizard that he was, Hamilton just chuckled and went about his day, exploring and casting spells on the other hapless wooden creatures. There never seemed to be quite enough time to fully enjoy these harmless antics. One bright spring morning, Hamilton had completed his studies early, having easily found his wand. He had a terrific idea to go exploring beyond the safety of their wee land. Hamilton thought, "I'll ask Highland to come with me on a grand adventure. I can show her all my wonderful spells, and together we can explore the forest and mountains. There would be many new and wonderful things to see and do." Delighted with his idea, he ran quickly down to the meadow to entice his sister into joining him on his exploit. Hamilton spoke to her of all the magical creatures of which they knew, but had never seen, that lived outside of the realm. He asked, "Highland, won't you please come with me? It will be ever so much more fun." Highland loved the idea of seeing forest fairies and unicorns, but was fearful about running into a terrifying dark Donald devil and a Direach, a troll-like monster which lived deep within the stone mountains. Worried, she asked, "What if I'm scared and don't know what to do?" Hamilton confidently responded, "Don't worry, Highland, I'll protect you." And the two best friends headed down to the cobblestone pathway into the forest. At the edge of their kingdom, they soon came upon a rope bridge which hung over a narrow, deep chasm. With the bridge swaying, Hamilton started to make his way across when Highland suddenly yelled for her brother to stop. "I'm scared." "What if something bad happens and we fall?" asked Highland. "I don't know magic like you do. What am I to do?" Hamilton gently took his sister by the hand and declared in a confident tone, "Don't worry, Highland. I'll protect you. and then he bravely led Highland across the swinging bridge. Once across safely, the two followed a dirt path that led to the entrance of the stone mountains. They carefully tiptoed into the depth of the cave, proceeding with caution as quietly as they could to avoid the attention of the Direach, the hideous troll-like creature that feasted off of human remains. They were almost through the cave when suddenly they heard a rumbling, monstrous growl. "Rrrr!" snarled a voice. "I sense there is someone lurking in my cave." Just then, two large glowing eyes and a set of sharp white teeth appeared from within the darkness. Hamilton and Highland immediately stopped, too scared to move. "Who dares to enter Stone Mountain?" the voice demanded. "I will find you, and when I do, I will feast on your bones for all eternity," the Direach threatened. Highland hugged her brother tightly, whispering, "I'm scared. I don't know what to do." Hamilton whispered back, "Don't worry, Highland. I know exactly what to do. I will protect you." Quickly but quietly, Hamilton took the magic wand from deep within his pocket and cast the spell, Dormitibus Oratio, on the Direach, causing the creature to immediately fall into a deep slumber. The two siblings were then able to pass by the sleeping monster through the darkness of the cave without fear of becoming an eternal lunch. Together they ran from the depth of the cave and into a clearing where they beheld a magnificent shimmering waterfall. It was surrounded by trees with beautiful blue blossoms. Scattered everywhere were small glass pebbles of all colors and sizes. Highland reached down to collect one of the beautiful round orbs when suddenly a Urisk appeared before them. Urisks were devilish tricksters who commonly had dominion over cliff sides and waterfalls. They were known to be cursed creatures that looked half human and half goat. Hamilton knew right away that this creature would be clever and would never let them pass without payment. He waited for the creature, draped in a tattered robe, to speak.
"No one is permitted to pass through the waterfall without first presenting me with a gift,"
its raspy voice demanded. Knowing they had no gold, Highland became anxious. "Hamilton, I'm scared. We have nothing to give this creature. What will become of us?" Her eyes were wide and fearful. Hamilton knew if they didn't present a gift, the Urisk would steal their souls and imprison them forever in one of his colorful glass orbs. Being the crafty wizard that he was, Hamilton raised his wand while delicately plucking a tiny bud from the tree overhead. Kindly, he asked his sister to hold the blossom gently in her wee little hands. And as she did, he waved the wand and recited the magic chant Gemma Magnifico that turned the tiny bud into a magnificent deep blue sapphire. He then presented it as a gift to the Urisk, and the creature gladly accepted the glittering gemstone as payment and safe passage through the falls. As Highland and Hamilton continued their journey, they became weary and decided to stop and rest in a heavily wooded area by a quiet pond. This pond was surrounded by lush mossy trees and overgrown with an abundance of beautiful flowering Scottish heather. As the water shimmered not too far from the base of the tree where they sat, they began observing the light's reflection. The siblings took notice of how the water would dance, causing the ripples to sparkle in the light, and they could swear the water was calling to them. As Hamilton and Highland cautiously approached the pool, the water suddenly began to violently churn. They could see a glorious white animal struggling to escape from the entangling water lilies that were ensnaring it. The animal had golden hooves and a long golden horn atop its head. It was a unicorn. The animal thrashed about in the water, struggling to be free from its prison. As the children started to make their way to the unicorn, a bodak suddenly appeared to them. They immediately knew that it had cursed the water lilies, causing the unicorn's entrapment. This bodak was from the spirit world and resembled a human-like figure who foretold the comings of a disaster and misfortune. She was gray and dreary and floated towards them, whispering like an eerie wind.
"Death comes to all who enter the forbidden pond."
Highland jumped behind her brother and shrieked, "I'm scared. I don't know what to do." Hamilton pulled out his wand and exclaimed, "Don't worry, Highland. I will always protect you." Hamilton waved his magic wand, reciting Turbinus Vasti, quickly conjuring a gust of wind so powerful that it ferociously blew the bodak back into the spirit world where it belonged. Hyland held tight to her brother's wizard robes with one hand, and even more tightly to the branch of a deeply rooted tree with the other. As Hamilton was concluding his battle with the spectre, Hyland ran towards the unicorn, grabbing and pulling the water lily vines from around the unicorn's legs. Finally freed from its exhausting struggle, it made its way to the mossy bank, laying down to rest. Hyland ran over and soothed the wearied animal, stroking its lustrous white coat. It was so lovely and silky. As she sat reassuring the beautiful creature, it spoke directly to her heart, and only she could understand its true meaning. Daring child who has pulled me from the depths of despair, I am ever so thankful, and for this reason I will grant you a boon, the gift of wisdom, that you alone will come to understand. There will be a time where your bravery will shine through, and you will know the things you need to do to overcome the challenges you will face. Don't fear bravery. Have confidence and let your love and talents shine through. The unicorn sweetly nuzzled Hyland's hand before quickly dashing off into the forest. Before Hamilton could reach his sister's side, the enchanted creature had disappeared into the thick brush and bramble. As the day waned, the sun commenced its lingering disappearance beneath the horizon. Now, descending down the mountain slope, the siblings took their adventure through the valley and back towards home. As the evening clouds formed overhead, icy droplets of water began to pelt the air and pair. They quickly ran for cover into an old crumbling castle. As they entered the cold, dark ruins, they noticed a fire roaring in the fireplace. Without hesitation, they made their way over to it to warm themselves from the damp cold. As they huddled together, Hyland noticed a shadow which creepily hovered over them. The shadow appeared to wear a deep crimson cap. At first, they thought it was that of an old man lurking in the hallway, but as Hamilton looked again at the eerie figure, he noticed its razor-sharp talons. It was a redcap, a ghostly, goblin-like figure with claws for hands that haunted abandoned castles in the night. They scratched at walls and stayed hidden in the darkness, hoping to feast on their victims' fears and nightmares. Out of nowhere, the frightening figure snatched Hyland from behind. Startled, she screamed, "Hamilton, help me! I don't know what to do!" As she struggled, the redcap was clawing at her, attempting to feast on her fears. Hamilton, being both brave and wise, shouted, "Don't worry, Hyland, I will protect you." Using his wand, Hamilton began casting a powerful light spell, Solium Illuminaire. The wand grew brighter and brighter as the charm took effect. The light became so radiant and powerful that it dispelled all the darkness around them. Hamilton, aiming his wand directly at the redcap, illuminated the shadowy spirit with such strength that the redcap shrieked and moaned and wailed in agony. Frantically, it raced around the castle, screeching and howling in such anguish that Hyland and Hamilton were able to escape unscathed, fleeing into the nearby cavern. They took refuge there for a time, waiting for the rains to pass while quietly reminiscing about the adventure they were sharing and how there were so many scary things that lived outside of their kingdom. Hyland wished she could be as wise and brave as her brother Hamilton had been. As the clouds began to clear, they could see from the mouth of the cave down into the valley to the meadow where they lived. They were almost home. Excitement swept over them as they both started to cheer, but as they did, the walls of the cavern began to rumble and shake. Rocks tumbled all around them as an apparition appeared before them. They looked upwards as the creature began growing taller and wider and bigger with each passing moment. Hamilton knew this could only be one thing: the mysterious Dark Donald Devil. This devil was a shape-shifting creature that could take the form of one's worst fears. Now fully changed, the Dark Donald Devil became a large, fierce, fire-breathing dragon. It stood 30 feet tall and had scales so thick as it to be nearly impenetrable. Drawing his wand from his pocket, Hamilton immediately clad himself using a knight's armor incantation. The wand became his sword, for he knew he would have to fight this creature to the death. Hamilton slashed over and over at the Dark Devil, wielding his sword like a true knight. However, he was no match for the creature's prowess and strength. With one snap of its powerful jaws, it scooped Hamilton up, holding him clenched between its large, piercing teeth. Hyland saw that the Dark Donald was about to swallow up her brother, and she fell to her knees and cried out. Hamilton, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose you. Tears streamed down her wee face. You are my best friend. I will be so sad without you. Hamilton stretched forth his hand through the beast's massive teeth and cried out, I'm sorry, Highland. I had promised to always protect you. I never thought I wouldn't be able to keep you safe. I'm sorry that I failed you. Whatever happens, be brave. Hamilton, now anticipating the monster would swallow him whole, let his sword fall so that his sister might have a fighting chance. Highland stared at the sword, which had fallen but a few feet from her. Then, looking at her brother, she remembered all the things he had done to keep them safe on their journey. Suddenly the words of the unicorn rang clear in her mind. Be brave, be wise, she repeated quietly to herself. Highland took one last look at her brother and exclaimed, Don't worry, Hamilton. I know exactly what to do. It's my turn, and this time I will be the one to protect you. With her heart full of love for her brother, she stilled her mind and began to sing. The lyrics, accompanied by the Kisk's melody, flowed with such precise clarity and beauty that the Dark Donald was spellbound and immediately pacified. As Highland continued to sing so enchantingly, her feet naturally took to dance. Her Scottish movements, so soft and delicate, complemented her dulcet tune. Gracefully leaping and twirling about the sword, which now lay precisely beneath her feet, Highland continued to dance with such elegant and refined movements. As her feet fluttered gracefully about the sword, her slender arms moved in complement as she precisely placed her rhythmic steps. Her heart was so full of goodness and love, she was able to overcome her fear of the Dark Donald Devil. In this moment, Highland understood that she didn't need to be physically stronger to defeat the monster. Instead, she could soothe the creature with her talents, her kindness, and her loving nature. When her performance ended, Highland curtsied deeply to the Dark Donald, kindly promising, If you spare my brother, I will stay here as your prisoner and sing and dance to calm you, for as long as you dwell in this land. The Dark Donald slowly opened its mouth and gently placed Hamilton on the ground at his sister's feet. The beast transformed slowly from the huge menacing dragon, shifting instead into the feminine form of a young lass to better communicate with Highland. And as it did so, she spoke to Highland with such a deep sadness in her voice. Your song and dance moved me in a way that made my heart tremble, and I was able to see the love and sacrifice that you were willing to make for your brother. Tears began to well up in the maiden's eyes. I have never seen such kindness or love, and for this reason I cannot hold you prisoner. With a longing sigh, the Dark Donald continued, Instead, I ask that we visit often whenever you'd like, so that we may become friends and I can learn of this bond that you and your brother share. I am a lonely and sad being and have never experienced such sincere devotion from anyone or anything in my long lifetime. You are free to leave, and I am sorry for the harm that I caused. Seeing the pain and sadness in the Dark Donald's eyes, Highland quickly ran over and hugged the young lass. Of course we will visit you, Dark Donald. Happily, whenever you'd like, Highland responded. No one should suffer loneliness or sadness, and we would be honored to be your friends. The Dark Donald embraced Highland in return and helped Hamilton to his feet. Transforming back into the dragon, it flew its newfound friends safely to their home. Over the years to come, Highland and Hamilton visited the cavern often to spend time with their new friend. This act of compassion helped to change the Dark Donald's heart to want to be good and kind to everyone. One particular misty morning, while Hamilton was once again searching for his missing wand that Ferguson had mischievously well hidden, the Dark Donald came to visit Highland in the meadow by the loch to watch her sing and dance for the Kisk. Hamilton could be seen, not too far off in the distance, searching under a tree by a large rock, his faithful little doggie and his calico cat by his side, and Ferguson in the tree, giggling above him. No doubt he would find the cleverly hidden wand like he always did, and then go about his day casting spells on charms, on frogs, fairies, and other woodland creatures. As Highland began her enchanting song on the bank by the loch, the Dark Donald could swear it witnessed the shy Kisk flip its tail gently above the water as if to convey its thanks to Highland for her beautiful presentation. The Dark Donald then sat quietly enjoying her time with the truest friends she had ever known, and dreamed about how the Kisk might one day accept the offer of their friendship too.